Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. I am Danielle Okamoto, the Director of Membership Services and Strategic Initiatives for the Association of Independent California Colleges and Universities, also known as AICCU. At AICCU, first, we want to thank you for all your hard work and dedication you provide for students. We view high school and college counselors as our partners and our colleagues. We are here to provide you information, resources, support, so that you can continue to help your students know about the private nonprofit sector. This is the first time in over 20 years AICCU, with the help of our institutions, have put together these counselor conferences to expand the ways we provide you information and resources about the sector. Our agenda today includes an overview of AICCU, an admissions panel, a financial aid panel, a student services panel, and then we will be ending with an open discussion where you can ask questions of the institutions that are here today. Our goal is to help achieve these objectives. Who is AICCU? Who are our colleges and universities? Who are our students? And lastly, how can you help your students learn more about the private nonprofit higher education options available to them throughout the state? AICCU was founded in 1955 to help coordinate with the state in the formation of the California Scholarship Program, which today is known as the Cal Grant Program. As an association, we serve as the collective voice for the private nonprofit sector of California higher education. All members of AICCU must be four things: nonprofit, degree granting, WASC accredited, with its main campus located here in California. As a sector, AICCU is 85 members strong. Our members represent a wide range of institutions, from traditional undergraduate programs to liberal arts, specialized programs, including art-specific or healthcare fields, research institutions, faith-based, and even within faith-based, a wide range of faiths, a variety of Christian denominations, Jewish, Catholic, Muslim, and Buddhist. We also have graduate-only institutions, online-only institutions. Basically, if you name it, we most likely have a college or university that meets the needs of what your students are looking for. And when we combined the collective number of programs that our institutions offer for students, from associate degrees to doctoral and everything in between, there's over 6,000 active degree programs available to our students. And not only do our institutions collectively offer 6,000 programs, but we are located throughout the state, from as far up as Redding, as far south as San Diego. And then when you layer on top of that, our satellite campuses, our reach for students expands greatly. So we have a lot of programs and we have a lot of campus locations. What else makes our institutions different? Well, simply put, a lot. Our students receive personalized attention with an average student to faculty ratio of 11:1. 78% of our institutions are Hispanic serving or emerging HSIs. 82% of our institutions are yellow ribbon. In addition, there are a variety of student services available, from health centers, mental health services, summer programs, study abroad, food pantries, career services, and robust alumni networks around the world to support your students once they graduate. Now, with all AICCU institutions being independent and unique from one another, there is one core and important similarity among all of them: our students. Across the sector, our students are our why. Our students are who every campus, regardless of size or type, works so hard to ensure each and every student feels welcomed and has the support they need to achieve their higher education goals. 23% of our students are Pell Grant, 14% of our students are Cal Grant. And of our Cal Grant students, 47% are first generation. And of the four-year institutions in California, we enroll 21% of undergraduates and 55% of graduate students. And the average retention rate for our first-time full-time students is 77%. Our students are also representative of California's diversity. 65% of our undergraduate students are non-Caucasian, and 50% of our Cal Grant students are Latinx. Not only do we enroll students, we ensure they earn their degrees. In the state, we collectively award 19% of bachelor degrees, 55% of master's, and 55% of doctoral degrees. And when you break this down by key workforce, we award 43% of new teaching credentials in the state, 50% of nursing degrees, 26% of computer and information science degrees, and 93% of clinical counseling and applied psychology degrees. And we know one of the largest myths of the sector is cost, but it is important to note there's a large difference between sticker price and the price a student will actually pay. 78% of our students, undergraduate students, receive institutional, state, local, or federal grant aid. And this is all grant aid that does not need to be repaid. The average institutional grant aid for a Cal Grant student is over $21,000. And while some of our students do take loans, the median debt at graduation is just over $23,000, with a student loan default rate of less than 1%. So even when our students do take the loans, they are able to repay them. And it is important to note that each student's financial aid package will look different depending on the student and the campus they are applying to. And in some cases, the amount of aid a student receives before loans may make a private institution more affordable than a public. And I know this from personal experience. Coming from a single mother household, I thought a state university was the only option for me. With the encouragement of my mom, I applied to the private university in my hometown. When the financial aid packages came, I took out less student loans attending the private university than I would of the state. And so it is so important that a student applies because they really don't know what's possible unless they try. Additionally, AICCU is on the front lines at the state and federal level, actively working to increase the Cal Grant and the Pell Grant award, maximum awards for students attending our institutions. So how can your students learn more about the options available to them? Encourage them to reach out to any campus they have of interest. And if they're able to make it for an in-person tour, encourage it. And if for whatever reason, we know there's many circumstances where a student can't attend an in-person tour, reach out to that institution and learn about the virtual options. Virtual is one of the beauties that did come out of the pandemic. Also connect with local college fairs throughout the state. AICCU institutions participate in over 200 transfer days and college nights events every fall. And make sure students follow campuses of interest on social media. Whatever platform they're using, our institutions are there, and the students will be able to get a glimpse of what life as a student is at that institution. And in March of this year, together with 9 inaugural institutions, AICCU launched California Private Colleges Possible. caprivatecollegespossible.org serves as a centralized resource to equip students, families, and counselors like yourself with valuable information about the resources and other critical facts students need when applying to a private institution. And since its launch in March, the Resource Center has grown from 9 to 40 AICCU institutions, providing direct links to campus profiles, scheduling a tour, and along with admission and financial aid information. This Resource Center will continue to grow and evolve, so please make sure to bookmark it and share it with your students. And lastly, AICCU publishes each fall a college guide. The guide provides general campus facts for each of our 85 institutions. So in closing of my AICCU overview, thank you again for the time and dedication you provide students. We hope to be a resource and a partner for you and continue to grow the available resources you need when working with your students. These QR codes will take you directly to the Resource Center and the college guide that I previously mentioned. And if at any time you have suggestions for additional resources that would be helpful, please reach out. And I would also like to thank all of the institutions that are joining me today. I hope everyone here will enjoy your morning and leave knowing more about the private nonprofit sector of California higher education. I would now like to welcome our admissions panel, and my colleague Susan Reyes will be helping us with moving the panel up. Oh, let me fix videos. Thank you, everyone, for this again. Let's see if this will. Oh, there we go with video. Thank you, everyone, for minor technical difficulties. Great. Awesome. All right. Almost there, everyone. All right. Thank you again, everyone. So we are going to kick off with our admissions session. This is a chance to get just a little idea of what our institutions offer. This is a sample, but I'm very excited to welcome Harvey Mudd College, Loyola Marymount University, Mount St. Mary's University, and Santa Clara University. So I will let each of them introduce themselves, share a little bit about their institution, and then I'll jump into some questions. After our questions, we will open it up to Q&A to all of you. All right, Tyra, why don't you start?
Great, thanks, Danielle. Hello, everyone. My name is Tyra Briggs, and I'm the Vice President for Admission and Financial Aid at Harvey Mudd College. We are located in Claremont, California, about 35 miles to the east of Los Angeles, and we are one of what is known as the Claremont Colleges, which are 5 undergraduate colleges and 2 graduate institutions, and we are all located in 1 square mile. And students, once they're enrolled at any one of the Claremont colleges, can take classes not just that they will take classes at any or all of the other Claremont colleges. And in some cases, they can also major. Harvey Mudd happens to be the math, science, engineering school among the Claremont colleges. We are small, about 900 undergrads, and we only offer majors in math, science, and engineering, but have a very strong commitment to a full liberal arts education, so students study broadly across all areas. Should I turn it over to Becky, since we've been following each other for days now?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tyra. Good morning, everybody. Becky Conowitz, serve as Dean of Undergraduate Admission at Santa Clara University. So we are in Northern California, one of the Jesuit Catholic institutions in California. I know my colleague from LMU is here, and we also have USF up in San Francisco. Santa Clara is about 6,000 undergraduate students that primarily study in the College of Arts and Sciences, School of Engineering, and School of Business. We are a Division I athletic school. About 50% of our students come from California, The majority of students do have a flight or a very long drive to arrive. And in fact, this was welcome weekend. We are a quarter school, so the first day of classes at Santa Clara are today. Look forward to connecting and answering any questions you all have, and thank you for being there. So I'll pass it to Elizabeth.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Warner. I'm an admissions counselor at Loyola Marymount University, and at LMU, I also focus on Latinx student recruitment. LMU is a medium-sized Jesuit institution. We have about 7,000 undergraduate students, and we're really guided by our Jesuit traditions. So there's a big focus on commitment to academic excellence, engaging in student life, and care personalis, which is care for the whole person. So I'll go ahead and hand it off.
I can go ahead and go next. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gavin Todd. I'm an assistant director of admission for first-year students at Mount St. Mary's University of Los Angeles. I'll be stepping in today for Megan Poston, a director of admission for first-year students. Mount St. Mary's University is located in Los Angeles, 2 locations, one near the downtown LA campus, so it's our Doheny campus. And then we have our original campus started in 1925 over in Brentwood, California, sitting up on the hill overlooking LA and the Santa Monica Ocean. We are founded by we're founded by the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet. And as far as our size, we are about 1,400 students total for our undergrad population. So you're looking at about 15 students to 1 full-time professor. And then we're most well known for our nursing program. We were the first college in all of California to offer a bachelor's in nursing. So it's kind of a unique fact about us. But we are also a liberal arts school. So we have over 34 different majors for other students who are interested in other subjects. But thank you for hosting us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you again for all of you joining. So I'm going to jump right into our questions. First is, are there A to G like requirements for your institution or any subject matter requirements?
Are we going to go in the same order?
Sure, let's do the
I
same
don't want to go
order.
first every time, but I'll start this one up. So Harvey Mudd, as I mentioned, is an institution where we only offer majors in math, science, and engineering. But as a highly selective college, we're certainly looking at all different courses as we're considering applications. That said, we do have a requirement that all students before they get to Harvey Mudd have already taken a year of calculus, a year of chemistry, and a year of physics, because our core curriculum assumes that students have that knowledge. It doesn't matter what year they took these classes, and it doesn't matter at what level, since students are coming to us from around the world, but we do have those requirements.
I can jump in for Santa Clara. Really, it's our School of Engineering that we like to see students persisting in a most rigorous math curriculum to be prepared. And that tends to be having completed pre-calc. We prefer calculus. Again, depends on the story and access to those courses. We like to see, it's not required to have the physics, chemistry, biology sequence, but we do like to see it for our engineering. For our business, we often get questions about calculus or statistics. Again, we like to see that pre-calc curriculum has been strong and a good foundation. There is a required calculus course in our business school upon first year enrollment. And so, you know, if a student has a chance to take calculus, that would be great. But if they opt for statistics, that's okay. I think it's more important to know that calculus is in their future, and that's making sure that they understand that's a part of the business school. For any other major, there's no prerequisites. A through G is a great guide to be competitive in selective admission at Santa Clara.
Similar to Santa Clara at LMU, we also provide the A through G requirements as a guide, but they're not ultimately requirements at our institution. For students interested in business, we do ask that they complete a year in algebra, geometry, and trig or algebra 2. We just expect them to be prepared for their first year to take calculus, college level calculus. And for students interested in engineering, science, computer science, and math, we ask that they complete 4 years of math and 1 year each biology, chemistry, and physics. And this really, again, is to prepare them for calculus and the rigorous course load at our institution.
I'll go ahead and jump in. And also I apologize, I forgot one of the biggest important aspects of our university. We are the only all women's college in Los Angeles. So if your student is looking for that type of education, it's a great choice. Except for our nursing program, we do admit all genders. So when it comes to the A through G, some of my other colleagues, pretty much exactly the same. It is a guide for us. We are definitely highly looking at math, science, English, social science, foreign language. Those are core classes. But as long as the student is on track to graduate, we will consider them for admissions.
Awesome. And one of the big questions, do you require the SAT, ACT for entrance?
I can kick us off. Santa Clara continues to be in a test optional pilot program through 2024. So it is truly the choice of the student. We have no preference. If they would like to submit the SAT or ACT, they would select that when completing the Common App, letting us know that they intend to submit them. If they decide they do not wish to, no problem on our end.
I can jump in. For Mount St. Mary's University, we are, I would say, test blind. So even if you were to send in the scores, we are not going to factor that into a decision.
We are SAT, ACT optional on LMU, and that will be the case moving forward.
And we are SAT, ACT optional for at least this year. We'll be making a decision hopefully within the next few months about whether this becomes permanent. And as I've shared with other groups, if you hear that Harvey Mudd is going back to requiring testing, then I lost the argument. So I'm hoping we will remain so.
All right, and then is there a GPA requirement and what is, if you know, the average GPA for your incoming students?
At LMU, we don't have a GPA requirement. On average, most students have about a 4.0.
For Mount St. Mary's, also, there is no GPA requirement. We do look at applications holistically, but the average incoming students coming out at 3.6.
I have no idea what the average GPA is for Harvey Mudd. We will take whatever GPA a high school gives us, and we don't recalculate anything. In the span of an hour, I could be reading one student on a 4-point scale, another on a 100-point scale. So it's going to be much more based on context than anything else.
Similar, Santa Clara reads holistically. I think our average GPA of this year's incoming class is about a 3.67, 3.7. But I think what all of us want to remind all of you that a GPA means different things, but what's most important is the choice and selection of courses. And so we would all say rigor matters, and rigor is that area or multiple areas a student decides to push themselves in based on what is offered in their school context. So that's really important. I know at Santa Clara, we spend more time looking at rigor than we do calculating a GPA. We share those GPAs because this is a popular question from students and counselors. But what's more important is the story the transcript tells.
Awesome. And does your campus accept the Common App? And are there any supplemental applications that a student needs to complete when applying?
I could jump in. So for Mount St. Mary's University, we do accept the Common Application or directly on through our website. We don't have any supplemental applications for students, but just, I would say, supplemental supporting documents. If you're applying for like a full tuition scholarship, or if you're applying for nursing as well, there are like supplemental documents, but no supplemental applications for us.
Santa Clara is Common App exclusive, so that is the only way a student can apply. And similarly, we do ask 2 additional supplement questions to the main Common App essay.
Ditto for Harvey Mudd. We have one additional sort of normal length essay and 1 short answer question, but Common App exclusive.
And then,
oh, sorry. For LMU, we're available on the Common Application, the Coalition application, as well as our private LMU application. And we also don't have any supplemental requirements or applications. We do have a supplemental writing piece. It is optional, so students can submit it if they'd like. but definitely not a requirement for admission.
Also, real quick, can I just interject? It's important if anyone else wants to volunteer. Our application is completely free as well. So as far as the charge, it is a free application.
That's a great question that you brought up. What's your application fee? And if students need one, are waivers available?
We do have an application fee. It's $70, but it is students can ask for a waiver through a number of different sources, including one that essentially just says, I cannot afford it.
Ditto to Harvey Mudd, $70. And yes, we accept waivers. We make it very seamless for the student. In fact, we don't even expect them to go to their counselor to ask for proof. So really encourage them, if there is a financial need, to just say, I do the waiver on the Common App.
For LMU, our application fee is $60, and we also do accept fee waivers and also provide fee waivers for any students who may see the fee as a barrier.
Great, thank you. So how are applications reviewed, and is a comprehensive review used with your campus?
I can talk a little.
No, go ahead, Elizabeth. That's fine.
Thank you. So definitely we take a holistic review process, and when we are evaluating applications, I think similar to what my colleagues mentioned, we are really looking at sort of the story, right? The full picture of who a student is. And we understand that the data or numbers don't always tell that full story. So we really are looking at writing ability, any artistic or athletic accomplishments, work or service related accomplishments, as well as co-curricular activities and letters of recommendation. And if students do choose to submit their test scores, we're of course looking at that as well.
And I'll just saying kind of it's a holistic approach. Yes, our admission requirements are listed on our website, but of course, if any students, might have some academic setbacks that they would like to talk about, we are looking for that in their admissions essay to just explain, what was going on. So we will look at everything.
We read in a slightly different way than many, in that we use something called CBE, or committee-based evaluation. And that's where two admission readers are reading the same application at the same time. One person reads half, the other person reads the other half, and we are having an ongoing conversation. So if we see some sort of anomaly on the transcript, then I can say to my partner, I'm not sure what happened in 10th grade. And they can say, well, looking at the common application, it appears that there was a divorce or a death in the family or something that would give context to that. And the job of the pair is essentially to decide whether or not that application will move on to admission committee. Some nice advantages with this process, meaning that it's instant calibration for new readers. We pair a new reader with an older, experienced reader. So that way they can get a sense of what we're looking at. And for our other friends here, it means we can only read during working hours. And so gone are the days of being up until midnight reading applications. So that's a nice bonus and a good work-life balance advantage.
And lastly, at Santa Clara, our admission counselors who oversee a territory are the first read of that area, and then it will go to committee if need be. Sometimes all files are at least read twice by another director, senior leadership for that process. So it is committee-based in the sense of 1-2 read.
And since the recent Scouts decision, there have been some questions. Will race be considered if a student places it in their essay prompt response?
I can speak a little bit on behalf of LMU. We've always taken a holistic approach when reading applications. And so we understand that for some students, that's a big part of their identity. And if students choose to share that, we're of course looking at their whole application, right? So we understand that an identity can be intersectional. So that is a part of their experience, and they're sharing that part of their experience. It's likely they're also sharing a lot of different aspects of their lived experience and sort of the impact that's had in their growth, their development. So it's never been an identifying reason why a student has gotten into our institution. It's only been a component of who they are. So it'll continue to be that moving forward.
I'll jump in and for Mount St. Mary's University, we have removed the race from the application process like some other schools. But in the past and currently, we have not used it for the review process. So students are still able to disclose that information in an admission essay, but we won't factor that into our decision.
I think they've both said it perfectly. Yeah, it was never the deciding reason why a student was admitted before, and it's all about context and what the students want to share. They shouldn't feel like they have to share any piece of this, but if they feel like that's something about their lived experience that they want to communicate, then we welcome that.
Yeah. And then one more general admission question before we transition to some transfer questions. How is ChatGPT going to affect the application process?
Well, I can share that it's certainly not going away. So I think embrace it. I encourage counselors on the call who have large volumes of letters of rec to explore, practice, see what your students may be using. I encourage you to have workshops, ask us to speak to it. I do think all of us spent this summer putting our own questions as well as the Common App prompts into ChatGPT. I know we ran a counselor meeting doing this. And just like you would expect, it sounds like a robot writing an essay. The personal side is really what's lacking. And so whether it's your letters, whether your teachers ask you if they can use it, or your students, I think it is a great first draft, guide, resource. It's an equalizer. Everybody now has an essay coach, but that personalization, that fine tuning, making it connect in the application to, as you have heard from all of us, we're looking at context. That context comes from really understanding a student's story, experiences, strengths, weaknesses, identities, and that may come out best in an essay if they work at it. So I would say embrace AI, ChatGPT, but caution that it is, it sounds like a robot, it is a robot. And then lastly, I think the other reminder, especially those of us in Catholic Jesuit or science, it is somebody else's work, right? So be cautious and advise that you really still want to use your own work, and that if ChatGPT is stealing this or borrowing this from the internet, that somebody else might have written it. And so you really want to cite and understand the ethical implications for this pretty powerful software tool.
I would just add, we won't, we're assuming that many counselors are going to use it as a framework to write their recommendations, as a place to start. And that's not a bad idea. It's all about how you use it. So yes, use the tool and use it thoughtfully.
For Mount St. Mary's, I would just say, just echo, yeah, use it as a tool, but we have added to the Common App in our own application as well to just make sure that your work is your own.
And for LMU, I mean, we've always tried our very best to be as thorough as we can when we're reviewing applications. So similar to what my colleagues mentioned, we can tell when it is a robot, and that's sort of how the information you're presenting to us is what we'll use to make a decision. So ultimately, just being mindful of the decisions students are making and how that will impact the admission decision.
Awesome. All right, so we'll transition to a few transfer questions, and then we'll open it up to all the attendees. I know we have some Q&A, so we'll get to those. And so let's start off with, what partnerships and or articulation agreements does your campus have with community colleges? And how can counselors and students easily find these partnerships and pathways?
I can go first because unfortunately I have a fairly short answer. We only have an entering class every year of 228 students. We have a 98% retention rate between our first year to our sophomore year, we have very few transfer spaces available. And when we're looking at that, and so therefore we can't really have any articulation agreements because our transfer goal is typically 3 to 5 students. And also we're looking at students who have done work that closely parallels our core. So we are not the most transfer friendly group among, and I'm sure my colleagues have much better stories to tell on that front.
And for Santa Clara, several initiatives are going on with transfer students. I think given our location, we have quite a few relationships with Bay Area community colleges, including a transfer scholarship for Bay Area Community College transfer students. We also have a special fellowship and scholarship with Silicon Valley Power, which is the power company here in Santa Clara, for students interested in sustainable energy sources. We also have a partnership with Evergreen Community College for our biotech and innovation. So some neat things happening. Those are all available on our website. We also do have transfer articulation agreements with all community colleges in California for our College of Arts and Sciences. So about 50% of our students study in the College of Arts and Sciences. So those are available on our website. For business and engineering, part of that is just space limitations. And so depending on grades, courses that do articulate, it tends to be the AICCU, anything like any of those common courses do transfer. About a 3.5 for School of Engineering and School of Business for those students, but it is space capacity. So with rolling admission, first to apply, we'll have access to that opportunity.
At LMU, we do have a transfer admission office that manages, of course, the travel and the application process for transfer students. We do have established transfer guarantee programs with colleges in Los Angeles, or specifically in California, as well as Arizona. And those colleges are listed on our website, so you can see sort of the requirements and process for the transfer guarantee portion. But we also do have specifically in Los Angeles strong partnerships with El Camino, Santa Monica College, Hampton College, as well as East Los Angeles College. So those are definitely strong partners just given our location, but there's a list available on our website.
I'm going to be just straightforward. I work mostly with first year students, so I'm very limited when it comes to the transfer population. But yes, we do have agreements. We're always creating new agreements. Our biggest transfer population is going to be students transferring into our nursing program. But I am happy to put the webpage for a transfer team. I know that transfer counselors are always looking to help students with seeing if their classes will be covered when they transfer in that process. And for us, if your student's able to make an appointment with one of our transfer counselors, so one-on-one, they'd be happy to review their transcripts and to look over it. We also have an option for any nursing students to submit their their transcript pre-applying, so that way they can see where they're in line for the transfer admission process for the BSN program.
I'll ask one more question and then I'll turn it over to all of our attendees. What is the minimum units needed for transfer, and is there a maximum number of units that are accepted?
30 credits, meaning 1 year is the minimum to transfer in, and then they have to spend at least 2 years at Harvey Med.
At Santa Clara, minimum of 1 year, and maximum, it depends on the school and the major, tends to be about 70 units is the maximum.
At LMU, I know there is a number, but similar to my other colleague, I work with first year admission. So what I will do is I will look that up right now and add it to the chat to make sure I give you the most accurate information.
Now echo the same with Elizabeth. Thank you. Sorry, you guys.
No problem. All right, so I'm gonna go through our questions. So if you're on and you have a question and you haven't submitted it, go ahead. I'm just gonna go through and how I see them in my order. So our first one, can each panelist speak to how many transfer students they typically accept? So I know Harvey Mudd, you said 3 to 5.
3 to 5, yeah.
And then Becky, Liz, or Gavin, if you know.
No. Oh, go ahead.
At Santa Clara, we tend to have about 200 to 25 students in the fall and about 40 transfer students in the winter.
I was gonna say, it's not a small number. We can accommodate a larger number of transfer students for most of our majors. I would say there's definitely a limit when it comes to the BSN program. But again, I'm happy to share that webpage so that way you can reach out with the transfer team directly.
I also don't have a account, but I will share also their contact information so that our transfer admission counselors can connect with you and make sure they give you accurate information.
All right, the next question, do you accept CSU or AICCU patterns or the new upcoming CalJEC, sorry, and ADT for similar majors?
Santa Clara does not, but I would say it's a great guide. Majority do, we just don't have formal agreements on all those sources. But it's a great guide to guide students on.
Could you repeat that question one more time? I'm sorry.
Yeah, oops, where did I put it? Do you accept CSU or AICCU patterns and the ADTs for similar majors?
I'm probably gonna just wait. If you want to answer to that question for Mount St. Mary's, feel free to send it to me directly and I'm happy to get the answer for you. I'm sorry, guys.
No problem.
I know that at LMU we have a registrar who evaluates the courses individually, so it wouldn't be automatically processed. It would require the registrar to evaluate, make sure that the courses are equivalent. But of course, our transfer team can provide a little bit more information about the timeline of that and any specific questions you have about courses. They would be a good team to connect with.
For Harvey Mudd, it's much more tied to the Harvey Mudd core curriculum, which is not surprisingly rather STEM heavy.
All right, this next question I'm going to say for our next panel, it's regarding scholarships. And now data science is a math offering at our site, which is currently accepted by UC and CSU as an alternative to Algebra 2. They know this may change, but as of now, will data science be accepted as the third year of math, or is Algebra 2 a requirement for admission?
At Santa Clara, it can be accepted.
Harvey Mudd's a little tougher in that we don't say that Algebra 2 is a requirement, partly because all of our students have it now. And I am guessing that if we were to start seeing more students without it, because that's actually more of a basis for understanding everything else moving forward. So it's not something that is a requirement right now. So I'm guessing that we're going to want students to have Algebra 2 over data science.
I'll say for Mount St. Mary's, we'll definitely look at both. Again, it's not really strict A through G requirements, so as long as you have one or the other, it should be fine.
Similar, LMU, I think we have strong suggestions in terms of courses that students can take, but we'll ultimately look at your application holistically so that single course won't be the reason a student isn't evaluated or not admitted.
And if you know, do you have any course-to-course or major articulations with local community colleges? I know some of you had mentioned articulation.
Yeah, so for Mount St. Mary's, we do have a tool on our webpage. I'm trying to look for it where students can put in the course that they're taking at a local community colleges, and then it will give you the similar course that is offered at Mount St. Mary's to, be sure that that class would transfer over.
And I will note on a state level, AICCU is working to get our institutions included into ASSIST. So hopefully within the next few years, that will also be an option, a tool. What are the transfer GE requirements? If you know.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on each private institution and their GE. Many will accept quite a few of the credits from community colleges and courses. Others may not, and maybe 1 or 2 classes they're expected to take on campus. So I think that's going to be an individual pattern, and many of us have put in the chat our transfer sites that might have the core transferable articulations available for California community colleges.
At LMU, we don't have required courses either, but we do have recommended courses for our competitive programs. So I did list our transfer guide, and that has some of the list, some of the majors with the suggested competitive classes we suggest students take. So for example, psychology, we have a list of classes there. And of course, they're not requirements, but they are recommendations because of how popular the programs are.
Okay, and this question is for Harvey Mudd. What else in addition to the requirement of math and science classes does Harvey Mudd need for admission? What is the acceptance rate?
So we don't have any other absolutely clear-cut requirements in terms of courses. And again, it's going to be a holistic review of how students have challenged themselves. They certainly do not need to have taken every advanced course to be competitive for admission, but math and science certainly helps in that area. And our admit rate for this past year was 13%.
And then how can students who are interested in transferring from a community college prepare to meet general education and major prep? I know that's probably on your transfer websites that you've linked, right? Okay. Are any of the institutions approved to certify GI Bill benefits?
Yes, Santa Clara is a yellow ribbon school, so we're happy to connect you if you have any students to our yellow ribbon liaison.
You can contact information. We're also Yellow Ribbon School, and you can get contact through our financial aid office.
We're also yellow ribbons.
I'm not going to say we are or not. I think we are, but don't want to promise you information. I can find out more information if you'd like to reach out. We do have a veteran affair resource center on both campuses, and I'm happy to get that contact information for anyone interested.
All right. Do you track demonstrated interest?
At LMU, we don't.
We do not either.
Is when you're looking at GPA, is it weighted or an unweighted GPA?
Mount St. Mary's, we're definitely looking at weighted.
At Santa Clara, we look at unweighted.
Whatever you give us.
At LMU, we're looking at weighted, and we also do recalculate GPAs to make sure that we have an accurate picture of the students' academic performance.
All right, we've covered that one. Does applying early action have any benefits in terms of admission?
For Santa Clara, the last couple of years, I think if a student is ready to apply by November 1st, then they feel that especially their 9th through 12th grade, they're prepared, they don't need 12th grade grades, they have the materials. We have seen a higher acceptance rate in early action versus regular. At that point, we sort of had unlimited number of seats to offer, if you want to think about it. And by regular, we're really squeezed as we start to manage both the yield of the early action as well as that increased applications that come in regular.
Harvey Mudd is an early decision school, not early action. So it is a binding program and we have 2 rounds. And there's a slight admission advantage. This past year, our admit rate for early decision was a whopping 18% versus our overall 13%. So it's not a huge advantage, but for the students who meet the other categories that Becky mentioned, it's appropriate.
For Mount St. Mary's University, we are early action, so it's not binding. December 1st would be the deadline for that. There's a couple benefits. One, especially if your student's looking for direct to nursing entry, that's going to be the deadline for that. So they would have to apply then if they want to be considered. The minimum cumulative weighted GPA for that program is that pre-nursing program is a 3.8 GPA or higher. The only other 2 benefits I can think of. One is we do have a full tuition scholarship. That deadline is December 1st. So that would be one way of being considered for it. It's not given to every single student who applies. And then again, that GPA is also 3.8 or higher. And then lastly, just knowing your decision before, the spring semester or February when decisions start to release or roll out. If you do apply to FAFSA early, I know that's kind of a loaded question because FAFSA is like changing. So the hope would be that you get your financial aid award letter sooner rather than later. So that way that helps guide your decision.
At LMU, we have an early decision and early action round, and those deadlines are November 1st. But then we also have a early decision round 2 and a regular decision round. And really, we are evaluating applications in the same way throughout each cycle. So what we advise students to do is make a decision based on how prepared they feel to submit their application, because the November 1st deadline is very early, and we do have some portfolio or auditions for some of our majors. So if you're interested in one of those majors that requires that preparation and you don't feel ready by November 1st, then sort of reevaluating which application goes best for you is the best.
Thank you. High school students who took dual enrollment courses such as English Composition, English 101, will this course be transferable or used as English placement? Also, is there a limit to transfer credit from dual enrollment?
We actually don't transfer in any credits automatically, whether it's dual enrollment or AP or IB or anything like that. The only thing we have is diagnostic tests once students get on campus to determine where in their core that they will begin.
And at Santa Clara, we do accept dual enrollment. We do see it as a rigorous option when presented to a student who takes advantage of it. And as far as transferring in, it would be the same limitations that transfer students have. So it will vary, depend on major and college. So I encourage students to look at that on our transfer website or reach out. We're happy to answer those questions.
Similar to Santa Clara, we do also view it as a rigor option. And if students choose to submit their credits, then yes, of course, we can evaluate it to see whether it's accepted. The registrar evaluates that. In general, we do accept them as credits, but they don't usually, we want the majority of your classes to be taken at LMU. So there is a limit, and I will send you more information about that. But ultimately, we want your major requirements to be completed at LMU. So the majority of any credits that are transferred can't sort of overstep the amount of credits you would be taking on our campus. But I'll share our website that has more information about what classes count for what classes at LMU.
For Mount St. Mary's, yeah, we definitely accept dual enrollment. And again, it's on a case-by-case basis as far as how they're evaluated, how many units get transferred in. That evaluation process, though, wouldn't usually happen until the students committed to the university. Whereas different from the transfer process, the transfer counselors, are able to go over and kind of evaluate some of the courses that those students have.
And are there mandatory programs that students need to enroll in to transition into your campuses and address retention? Summer programs or classes students take, and are there additional fees to those?
At Mount St. Mary's, we definitely have a summer bridge program. So students can take some introductory college courses that would be part of the general ed requirements for graduation. And there it would be out of pocket, it would be covered by financial aid, considering our financial aid is based off of a semester. So it's traditional spring and fall semester.
Santa
You
Clara.
might- Go ahead.
Hey, bridge program mostly for math. We do have a placement exam and if students aren't proficient in an area of math needed for their major. There is a bridge program over the summer online. And then we also have a first generation lead week that is fully free for students to arrive to campus early, move in early, and adjust for those who are first in their family to attend college.
We don't have any other than our normal orientation. There's no other mandatory programs, but we also have a summer program called Summer Institute that students are invited to join just to help them connect with resources earlier, and that has no cost. And then we recently, in terms of retention, we've started something called a sophomore retreat, which is the sort of a little bit of the winter break between in their sophomore year, just to sort of see how as a check-in.
At LMU, we don't have any mandatory summer bridge programs. We do have orientation that is mandatory, but that's a week before our classes start. And similar to Santa Clara, we do have a first generation network on campus. And so they do tend to host a summer bridge program where they students transition to campus a little bit earlier. And that is a cohort-based program. So students do need to be admitted into that cohort to be a part of the summer bridge program.
Next question for me is this information available in the college guide. Our college guide has very high level information, so it gives you a taste of some of the requirements of our institution. So it does have SAT, ACT requirements listed, financial aid application, all of that, but it's to give you a taste to then contact our institutions for further information. Next question, we will be addressing mental health services in our student services panel. And what are the racial demographics? We actually, AICCU has a dashboard on our website. So if you go to AICCU, and I'll drop it in the chat as well, it's aiccu.edu/research. We have a dashboard where you can see the racial demographics of all of our institutions. It is IPEDS data, so it is a federal source of data, and you can find it there for all institutions. Support for undocumented will cover in student services. And okay, do you offer any undergraduate programs unique to your campus? And does this including internships and or prep for grad school, progressive degrees?
It's okay. I'm going to go first because I'm going to have to hop off. I'm going to be late for a meeting with the president. So we do have something called the clinic program, which is geared toward our students who are majoring in the more applied fields, computer science, engineering. And that's where companies like Google, Microsoft, SpaceX, Disney, they pay Harvey Mudd each year to have our students in groups of 4 or 5 take on real life research problems. Every group is given a budget, a deliverable, a due date, a corporate liaison, and that's their job to figure it out. Patents come out of these projects every year, and our students' names are on the patents. And it's an amazing sort of pre-professional opportunity to students learn collaboration and high-level work. And with that, I'm sorry, Danielle, I'm going to hop off. Thanks, everyone.
At Santa Clara, similar, we have a couple of unique programs. One is our REAL program for internship and hands-on experience that does offer payment by the university if students need it for summer or year-long internship or research as part of the College of Arts and Sciences. We also have a unique program for students interested in some of our labs on campus to get hands-on experience, everything from bioinnovation to opportunities in innovation and design thinking. So students really can have access to those hands-on. The Jesuit philosophy of education is to really put students out in the community. And so our location in Silicon Valley is to take advantage of that for our students to look at challenges, either with artificial intelligence, environmental challenges, socioeconomic challenges of houselessness, homelessness here in the Bay Area, where students can really look at the problem, solve it, offer opportunities to work in groups, and that's really leading them to some great internships and job offers. Our graduate preparation, we do have a law school that students can get connected with workshops. We have 4+1s in our business and our engineering schools for students who want to continue on to postgraduate work at Santa Clara. And then lastly, we also have an office for continuation for scholarships. Those are like the Goldman, the Fulbrights. They counsel students, guide students on those applications with one-on-one direction from faculty. So a lot of neat opportunities for students who want to continue the graduate programs with counsel and support from our career services as well as faculty.
I'd say for Mount St. Mary's, one thing I like to highlight is not unique to our campus. A lot of schools will have a film and media program, but kind of cool for our location. I highlighted at the beginning that we do have 2 separate campuses, one closer to downtown LA and one close to Brentwood. But we do kind of have a third hidden campus, which is our Hollywood campus. And so it is directly on Hollywood Boulevard, right in front of the Chinese Theater. So when it comes to location for that program, again, film and media, it's just a great location. We have an on-site photography and film studio, pre-production, post and pre-production media lab. We have a podcast studio there, but we have a lot of equipment, not just for our students who use 24/7, but for also just the local industry that will come and utilize that space that provide internship opportunities for our students. So not unique, but cool opportunity for our students who are interested in film and media.
LMU, I'll just talk briefly about Silicon Beach, which is, as you may have heard, Silicon Valley, very close to that, but here in Los Angeles. And we do have a campus on Playa Vista in Silicon Beach. So for students interested in large tech companies, we do have established partnerships with Netflix, Snapchat, Yahoo. So that's definitely unique to us. We also have a shuttle that takes students directly from our campus to Silicon Beach. So it definitely is possible for students to be in class, go on to their internships all within 30 minutes.
Right, I'm going to ask one more question, and then we'll transition to our financial aid panel. Housing. What are their housing requirements? And is there housing for transfer students, family housing? Yeah.
I'll go first. I don't think that there's family housing. Don't quote me on that. I just want to make sure I don't think there's family housing, but there is housing for both first year and transfer students. There isn't a requirement to live on campus. So if you're a first or second year student, we don't require it. But there is a demand for it. We always figure it out, but these past 2 years we have had completely full housing. So if there's a wait list, we usually get those students in closer to the start of the term. But we do have housing opportunities on both of our campus. So whether that's closer to the downtown LA location or our Brentwood location.
We guarantee housing for the first 2 years. It's optional, not required. And for graduate students, I think the housing are a little bit more expensive in terms of family housing, but we offer traditional style dorms for first year students. And for transfer students, we guarantee housing as long as they apply by the priority deadline.
At Santa Clara, we have a 2-year housing requirement, and for students who live within driving distance with family, they're welcome to apply for a housing exception process. So majority of our students do live on campus. As far as transfer students, we have no guarantee, but any transfer student, if they apply, housing does try and work with them to give them on-campus housing. Majority of our transfer students do prefer to live off campus in the local area. If we have any students living off campus, they're really close to campus. It's, a quick walk, skateboard, or bike ride away. So they're still part of our community. And that's a big part of the residential experience at Santa Clara.
Well, thank you. And I know a couple of you will still be able to join at the end for our open discussion. I do have a list of all the questions. If we didn't get them answered, I will work with the campuses and we can send those with the recording after this. So now we will transition to our financial aid panel. And while we do that, I believe attendees, you can place in the chat maybe where you're coming from. Good morning. There we go. There we go. Okay, Caitlin, you should be able to video. Yay!
Hey, there we go. Good morning, everyone.
We gotta love technology, right?
I know, right?
All right. Well, joining us today, we have representatives from Menlo College, University of San Diego, and University of the Pacific to answer some questions about financial aid. I don't have too many questions, but I do know we have a lot already going on in the Q&A. So I'll just go through my short list and then we'll jump into all of your questions. But before we do that, I would love if our panelists could introduce themselves and explain a little bit about their institution. So Tess, I'll start with you.
Sure, thank you. So my name is Tess Ruick, and I'm the Director of Admissions Operations here at Menlo College. And Menlo is a small but powerful liberal arts college located in Atherton, close to Palo Alto. We offer undergraduate and graduate programs in business and psychology with majors such as accounting, finance, entrepreneurship, real estate, sports management, and more. We're about 850 students total with small class sizes. The majority of our students hail from California, but our campus body does represent 47 countries worldwide. We guarantee housing, on-campus housing all 4 years, and we do have some commuter students too. About 30% of our students are transfer students, and we have numerous articulation agreements with the local community colleges, but always looking to create new ones.
And Jim?
Thanks, Danielle. Hey, everybody. Good morning. My name is Jim Bonner, the Associate Director of Admission at the University of San Diego. USD is a small to medium-sized private Catholic liberal arts university situated just about 10 minutes north of downtown San Diego. About 5,500 undergraduate students. We are a national university representing pretty much all 50 states and 7% international population as well.
And Caitlin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Caitlin Goslinga. I am the Senior Assistant Director of Financial Aid here at University of the Pacific, responsible for financial wellness and all of our outreach. University of the Pacific is a 3-campus community, I should say. Our main undergraduate campus is located in Stockton, California, so northern central California. We do also have our McGeorge School of Law and our School of Health Sciences in Sacramento, and in San Francisco resides our Jagoni School of Dentistry. We have around 6,000 students. That is our undergraduate and graduate population total across all 3 campuses. One of the things that stands out a little bit about Pacific is while we are a very small campus relatively to some of the bigger state NUCs, we do offer big school choices. So we do have 9 different schools and colleges, over 100 different majors, many of which require experiential learning for all of our students. Something unique as well is we have a very East Coast feel. So think like the Brick and the Ivy, but of course, with all the benefits of living on the West Coast. So happy to be here today.
And thank you. So I'll jump in. How do students apply for financial aid? And what do they need to complete to do so?
Go first. So at Pacific, we only require our students, if they're eligible, of course, to file the FAFSA. Of course, not an ultimate requirement, right? If families choose not to file, that is totally their choice. Although we encourage it every step along the way for all of our families. So that being said, we are not a profile school. We do not require the CSS profile to review and award our institutional need-based aid. So FAFSA only.
For USD, pretty much the same. We are a FAFSA institution. We do not use the profile. And for students who are not eligible for the FAFSA, the California Dream Act or the USD Dream Act as well.
Yes, for Menlo College, ditto what my other colleagues have shared. We do not require the CSS profile. And then similar to like Jim shared, at Menlo, we also accept the California Dream Act application.
And with the changes to the FAFSA and new FAFSA maybe, well, it has to come out by December 31st at 11:59 p.m. It has to come out by then. But how will that affect students applying for aid?
It is going to affect, students applying for aid. I know in prior cycles, right, with the FAFSA being open in October, that gave schools time to get offer letters out early, perhaps to their early decision or early action students. I know in prior cycles, our goal was to try to get those out prior to the holidays, right? So families can have that fun money conversation while they are, around the turkey. But I think the timeline for a lot of schools, and I'm sure my colleagues may be able to speak to this as well, is a little bit uncertain as to when we will be able to get our collective acts together and issue offer letters. And I think one thing that I want, counselors and just students, families to know, the community, is here in our aid offices, we're often beholden to our software providers, right? So we may have your FAFSA, we may be able to see it, right? But we might not be able to take action until we go through and get the right pieces together to be able to put together that comprehensive financial aid package, because we're looking at aid from lots of different resources, right? Federal government, state, institutional aid. But I guess the one thing is we're all in the same boat, right? So while we're delaying offer letters, every single school is likely in that same situation. Of course, working as quickly and earnestly as possible to get all of that information out so our families can make those good, educated decisions when it comes to where they're going to attend college.
I think there's gonna be a lot of dittos to that in our responses, Tess. But all of that said, I think the biggest issue is software providers. Again, once we can start downloading the information from FAFSA, it's up to each of the software providers to be able to take all the new changes, move them really quickly so that we can process applications and get decisions out as soon as possible for aid. I can say specifically for USD, we don't have early action. We have one single admission deadline of December 1st. So that's a little easier for us. We don't plan to send out admission decisions until the end of February, early March. And so our best guess is that financial aid letters may be 1 or 2 weeks delayed in March. That's the hope, but that's where we stand. Tess?
Yes, I agree with what both of my colleagues have shared, and Caitlin especially very well put. So we do anticipate a delay, but we're hoping that we will still be able to get letters out in early February or March, like Jim was mentioning.
And how do your campuses determine aid for a student? And putting together that a package?
I would say for us at Pacific, it starts with the admission process, right? First, you got to be admitted before we can work on financial aid from there. But specifically at our campus, that first step is all of our students are automatically reviewed for academic merit scholarships. So there's no additional application required at our school, which is convenient for our students. They go through, they apply, they're automatically considered for those funds, which really can range anywhere from $10,000 to upwards of $30,000 at Pacific. And then from there, our admissions team, they do that holistic review of that student's file, right? So looking at not only GPA and test scores if a student chooses to submit them, but also all those other things as part of their application that makes that student who they are as an individual in determining what that merit scholarship might look like. And then from there, of course, that file gets passed over to our team where we do that review of the FAFSA. We look to see what federal and state resources are available to that individual student. So Pell Grant, Cal Grant, etc. And then we then do our best to fill in institutional need-based aid. So specifically our UOP tuition and housing grant, which of course those resources vary year to year, right? We got to look at the books and see, how much we are able to offer our students in trying to make coming to a private school affordable, of course, but that's based on a remaining percentage of that individual student's unmet need. So doing our best to compile all of those resources to make Pacific an affordable option for our students and families.
Pretty much similar to Caitlin, merit aid is available without application. So once a student applies to USD, they are automatically considered for merit scholarship. Specifically for our admitted students, we award those merit scholarships, which range anywhere from $18,000 up to $25,000, renewable all 4 years automatically. But it's about the top 40% of admitted students in our pool. From there, admitted students are then pushed over to financial aid to process their FAFSA. And so based off the Student Aid Index, the SAI, formerly known as the EFC, that financial aid award will be based off of what that student's eligibility is based off of that data. Yes.
Yes, and again, very similar to my colleagues. So students will qualify for potential merit aid upon their admissions with review of their admissions application, and then state and federal aid will be awarded based on eligibility determined by the FAFSA or California DREAM Act application, as well as additional institutional aid determined by the Student Aid Index that will be on the FAFSA or DREAM Act application.
And so how can counselors help students understand the difference between net price and sticker price?
I think this is something we all probably agree that we combat, right? As a private institution, there of course is the assumption when families look at our cost of attendance and they see upwards of $70,000, $75,000. Of course, you shake your head and you go, no way, right? Like that is not affordable. And of course, I get that. When I'm talking with students and families, I do my best to try to meet them where they are or provide analogies that help them kind of understand the lingo, right? So when I'm talking about how financial aid interacts with our cost, I use a shopping analogy. So I say when you go to Home Goods or TJ Maxx or Nordstrom Rack, right, or wherever you enjoy shopping, and you look at that tag, right, and you see the MSRP suggested retail price for that shirt or whatever you're buying, and you're like, yeah, no way, I would not ever pay that price. But you see that discount there and you're like, oh, okay, I'm getting a sale, right? Everybody loves a sale. I think we can all agree on that. That's exactly how scholarships and grants and federal loans interact with our listed costs, right? The sticker price of course, or that net price, it's not what families actually pay. And oftentimes you may have to kind of go through that application process to really look at those numbers and compare them to your other college options to see, oh, hey, a private is a lot more affordable than I thought, after we look at all of those resources and compile them.
The only thing else I would add to that, yeah, sticker price, total price, subtract all grants, all aid, and that is your net price. One thing to keep in mind though, when advising students, is that a sticker price, you may be looking at direct costs, but also when you look at total cost of attendance, when you get the financial aid package, we'll probably include those indirect costs, which are those estimations. So it tends to be higher than what the tuition and your room and board is going to be. So it may be a question like, why are you trying to add all of these extra costs to my package? It's actually a good thing, because your financial aid would be based off of the higher price of what could be, travel expenses, books and fees, and everything else that you may not be thinking about outside of tuition. So something to keep in mind as well with that sticker price.
Nothing more really to add. Very well put by my colleagues again. And I will say that 99% of our students at Menlo qualify for some type of institutional aid. So nearly all of them are not paying sticker price.
And I know you've all mentioned the California DREAM Act for undocumented students. What aid is available for those students, and do they just need to fill out the California DREAM Act, or is there additional applications?
At Pacific, our undocumented students are eligible to be considered for our academic merit scholarships, so the same as our resident students, and that's the case for our international students as well. We do encourage them, of course, to fill out the California DREAM Act to review for that Cal Grant eligibility. As of now, those are the two main resources available to that student population, but we do recognize oftentimes that population does have a larger need there than what we're able to offer currently. So it is something that our institution is kind of actively looking at to see how we can support those students with additional institutional resources. Don't quite have our hands around the full scope of that picture yet, but of course, as decisions are made, we'll get that information out on our website if we have changes there.
Yeah, so state institutional aid are the two main areas, as well as merit scholarships. So anything, because merit scholarships come from the institution specifically, that is a merit institutional aid piece. One thing specifically also with USD we find helpful for undocumented students is our Circle of Excellence Scholarship. We award it's a small amount, but 10 every year, which is full tuition and full room and board for students who achieve very strongly, given the situation that they have grown up in. And so oftentimes a lot of our undocumented students do fall under that scholarship. So knowing that there is always a larger gap, this really makes that educational opportunity much more attainable.
And then, of course, merit aid at Menlo College, as well as potential state and additional institutional aid with the California DREAM Act application.
Thank you. Then I have one last question, and then we'll turn it over to the group. You've all mentioned merit aid, state aid. What are other common types of aid that your student receives?
So at Pacific, of course, like mentioned, federal and state aid, and just to maybe give some more context to that, because of course we all kind of hear the misconception that private college is not affordable for families. At Pacific, kind of our most recent review, 37% of our student population is Pell Grant eligible. So when we hear families say, "Hey, it's not affordable," right? I think that's a testament to the fact that we do our best to support our students that have that financial need, and they're making it work, which of course we love. We do have, again, our own institutional need-based aid. But along with that, we are open and honest with our students in talking about their loan options, right? Oftentimes, looking at those federal loans can be a resource that our students and also our families as well, in the form of looking at federal Parent Plus loan, right? We have those conversations about how families can use loans to their advantage to fill in that gap, to make that dream of going to a private institution a reality. And of course, we look to see, is that going to be an affordable option for that family? And if not, we don't push it. We want families to feel comfortable with what they're considering borrowing. And I know there's a lot of scary stories out there about loans, right? We've all heard those horror stories. But I think our probably collective loan default rates definitely speak to the fact that AICCU institutions prepare their students to be in the workforce and prepare them to be able to pay those loans back. So when I'm talking with students, I say, look, this is an investment you can make in your future, right? If you don't have that money right now, if you didn't have the chance to get a job over the summer, look, you've got a loan that can help fill that difference. And let's look and see how this can be kind of a valuable piece of the puzzle, right? That's oftentimes what aid is, taking all these little puzzle pieces of these different resources, outside scholarships, institutional aid, federal state aid, loans, work study, trying to fit all of those pieces together to finish that puzzle.
Yeah, pretty much nailed it. Good job, Caitlin. Other things just for USD, endowed scholarships that students can apply for specifically for maybe a particular major or a program like a choral scholars or music program. Every institution is going to have departmental scholarships that we always recommend students look to apply towards. It may not be a large sum of number of scholarships available, but it is something, and we always recommend students just look for those avenues, as well as outside scholarships. I mean, we push those heavy because they only help students overall. We help subtract student loans if they qualify, that less money they have to pay back. But beyond Pell, SCOG, Cal Grant, USD grants, those are really going to be the main sources of aid when it comes to need-based. Yes.
Yes, I agree with my colleagues. And we, as I mentioned, we do offer merit scholarships with the admissions application. Those range anywhere from 20 to 30,000 per year, and they're renewable. For students, we have a really awesome package for students from California who are Pell Grant and Cal Grant eligible, where we have the capacity to structure their financial aid package in a way that they have a zero out-of-pocket cost for both on-campus housing and tuition, provided that they utilize all of their financial aid, including loans. But it's an amazing opportunity for these students to have a very low out-of-pocket to attend the institution. And then there's some additional institutional scholarships that students may qualify for based on their merit and extracurricular involvement. So for instance, our valedictorian scholarship covers net tuition, and we do offer that to exceptionally high achieving students who are ranked top 1 or 2 in their class. And then I work primarily with non-athletic students, but we do offer athletic scholarships as well to our athletic recruits.
Thank you. And so now I'll jump over to our Q&A. The first one is, are there scholarship opportunities for F1 students?
I assume those are our international students, right? And I know just enough admission information to be dangerous, but of course I'm not over there. Our international students are considered for our academic merit, just like all of our resident students are. At this time, we don't have additional need-based institutional aid for that population, though.
Same exact answer for USD.
Similar answer for Menlo College as well. We do offer merit scholarships to international students. In fact, it is a higher merit scholarship. All of our F1 students qualify for up to $30,000 upon acceptance. And then we have some partnerships with the local community colleges where we are able to offer some additional scholarship to transfer international students. And yeah, that's it.
And do you offer scholarships for transfer students?
We do at Pacific. We do have a, kind of a separate set of transfer merit scholarships as well. The range is just a little bit different, but kind of similar to our undergraduate students. Automatic review, right? They look at probably more heavily on the transfer GPA for that population, I would say, in my understanding of that review process. That's a pretty critical piece. But yes, our transfer students are eligible for academic merit as well.
Same exact with USD. Different merit scholarship amounts, but primarily looking at the GPA, the college level work that the students are bringing once they apply.
Transfer students qualify for similar scholarships as our first year students. We do have some opportunities though to offer full net tuition scholarships to transfer students who are coming from certain community colleges that we have partnerships and relationships with.
And I think this was mostly answered, but just to make sure, is there a separate application needed for merit scholarships? Is there an advantage to applying early action to meet merit scholarship deadlines?
I'll add a little bit more onto kind of my piece. No, generally no additional application for our merit scholarships. However, there was one scholarship resource I neglected to mention earlier. Our highest, most prestigious merit scholarship at Pacific is known as the Powell Scholarship. Very competitive. There are some additional questions that students need to answer on the Common App or our Pacific app, right? Either application to be considered for our Powell Scholarship. Historically, it goes to about 10 students per year. This year, it covers $45,000 toward tuition. So if you compare that with a Cal Grant, you've got tuition at Pacific almost mostly covered. For that program, of course, we review all throughout the year our early action and regular decision applications. But for students that are particularly interested, that have got that high GPA and those leadership criteria for that scholarship, we would encourage them to apply early, right? The sooner you get your application in, the sooner it's going to get read and reviewed for that specific fund at Pacific.
So for USD, since we don't have early action, it's not applicable. Again, automatically reviewed, no additional application. We will submit or send out merit scholarship decisions at the same time of admission, end of February, early March.
Same for Menlo College. We do have early action, and so however, we do have early action, and so we will be sending admission and merit scholarship decisions prior to the holidays, when we normally would have sent some of our financial aid packages as well. But as soon as we are able to package students in the spring, we will send those out.
And then when you all have a chance, if you could add your financial aid links from your website to the chat. And then next question, can financial aid be renegotiated if a student feels that it is not enough to attend?
Oh, that's a great question. And of course, it's a question we get from almost all students and families as they're going through the application process, because who would not want more aid, right? More additional free aid. Of course, we would all agree that that is a resource that is in demand. At Pacific, it really depends on the scenario or the circumstances of the family, right? If they come to us and say, hey, this college gave me more aid, can you match it? Not necessarily, right? Every college is different. Every college has a different set of resources and a different kind of student body that they're looking to craft. So we're not just matching another school, based on a letter that you send in. But if there are financial hardships in your family that are not represented on the FAFSA, those of course would be circumstances that our office would want to hear. We do kind of have a formal appeal process for families where that student aid index is not quite reflective of their ability to pay. And that's a really specific individual review of that student's file. So it's not necessarily a let's slide that paper back and forth, right, when we're having that conversation with families. But if there is some sort of hardship, we definitely want to look at that and think thoughtfully and critically about what additional aid, if any, we're able to offer, right? Because we're trying to kind of balance, of course, making that financial aid offer affordable for that family. But also we got to keep the lights on as well. And I think that's just a reality of college, right? Education, but at the same time, kind of a business. I know it's a weird kind of world to be in when looking at college financing. So we would encourage students and families in those situations definitely to chat with us. You know, we will do our best to try to fill that need, but it's not necessarily a guarantee, just depending on what those circumstances are.
Yeah, well said, Caitlin. It's definitely not a negotiation. There is an appeal process. It's not that if you feel that you don't have enough aid, that's not the question. It's the question of, do you feel something was missing in the FAFSA? We're going to take everything that's been supplied, knowing that it's prior year. And if something has significantly changed in the family, if there, was a change in employment from the family that was not reflected in that data, that's where an appeal is really warranted, where we take a second look and really get some supplemental information and assess. But again, it's not because you feel that they didn't get enough. As Caitlin said, every institution will be wholly different in terms of basically the different buckets of money that they have available. And not every school is going to have as much money as another. So really what it comes down to, I always talk to students about financial fit. It's March and April as your top choice may not be the best financial fit, unfortunately, anymore, just given the amount of aid that is available there. And that's just the harsh reality that we have to have those conversations with our students, both on your side from high school counselors, but also on our side. And they are difficult conversations, but sometimes there's really not much else we can do other than making that tough choice of which is going to be the best fit for the student at that point in time.
Yes, again, very well put by my colleagues. Same at Menlo College. In addition to offering a personalized education, we do offer a personalized admissions and financial aid onboarding experience. And so our admissions counselors will go through the award letter with the families of each of their accepted students. We're able to do that. We have a smaller class that we're typically bringing in. And if there is an additional conversation that needs to be had, then it will be escalated to our financial aid assistant director and director to speak with the family, and there is a formal appeal process. And if professional judgment is needed, then that will be taken into consideration at that time.
And what are the financial aid resources available for a transfer student who has maxed out Pell and Cal grants?
That's a great question. And that is something that our campus runs into with our transfer students. We're fortunate we've got a junior college like 2 miles down the road. So we have a fairly healthy transfer student population just due to that proximity, and also Northern California. At Pacific, the way that our UOP tuition and housing grant is determined is also looking at a review of those resources, right? If a student is Pell Grant eligible or Cal Grant eligible. And if they're not, then we are able to offer a higher amount in that specific grant resource to help make up for that loss, or the inability to utilize those funds if they maybe spent a little bit longer than they had hoped to get those units to transfer over. So that is definitely something that we take into consideration when looking at that student's eligibility.
Not much more to add for USD. Pretty spot on.
Yeah, no, same for Menlo.
All right. And if does an undocumented student pay in-state tuition?
I don't want to speak maybe for all privates, but I'm fairly certain here in California that private institutions have one set tuition rate, right? There's no in-state or out-of-state. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. We have got that set rate that is billed essentially to all students, or based on, of course, their individual program. So that's not something that different populations of students have to worry about, right? That tuition amount is all the same. It's then looking at that difference of resources from the aid piece, depending on that campus. So that's definitely, I think, a misconception about privates is, oh, I'm out of state, I'm not going to be able to afford it. But hey, you're getting charged the same as all of our friends here in the state as well.
And where can students find scholarships based on major or department?
That's definitely a good question. I always, of course, encourage students to look at major national or even regional associations that they for their major of interest. For example, if they want to be a physical therapist, let's see what the American Physical Therapy Association might be offering as far as scholarships. But internally, maybe Pacific's review here of scholarships might be a little bit different than other schools, but we do have a number of endowed or donor funded scholarships that are given by really generous alums and organizations who want to support our students. In light of that, though, our students can't apply for those funds until they get to campus, right? Beginning their very first semester, probably October of that first semester, we invite all of our registered students to apply for right around 80 to 85 different scholarship opportunities, often with multiple students being able to be awarded from those funds. Our team then gets all the committees together and takes the entire spring semester to review those applications and make those decisions. So any additional funds awarded as part of that process would actually be applied toward a student's second year at Pacific. Primarily being is we want to see how they're doing as a Pacific Tiger, right? Check out their academic work, give the professors in those committees a chance to get to know the students rather than just looking at who they were in high school or as a transfer student. We've already done that with the merit scholarship, right? So those majors and the departments have a chance to do that review and then apply those funds later on. That's typically anywhere from additional $2,000 to $8,000 for our students, just depending on the fund and the amount that's in it. So that's kind of how our additional scholarship process works for majors and departments.
Yeah, we typically just direct everybody to our financial aid website. Unfortunately, it's a one-stop spot for all endowed or departmental scholarships. So we direct students there and really outline what those specific requirements are, whether they're eligible to apply as a senior who's been admitted, incoming, or like Caitlin said, some are dependent on the student already being enrolled at USD. And once they are there, then those opportunities become available to them. But there are both, and we, again, direct students to our financial aid website.
Same here. We direct students to the financial aid office or website at Menlo.
Thank you. And this next question, what is your tuition cost? And I will share in our college guide, we list the sticker price for each of our institutions in the college guide. And I know my colleague Susan Ray has dropped that into the chat. So you can find all of that there. So in interest of time, I'm just going to jump to our last two questions. Do you offer institutional aid to students who have families / children under the age of 18?
So we do. I wouldn't say that we have kind of specific funds just for that population, but I would say the way that that process works, of course, is those students are listing those people as part of their household, right, on the FAFSA, which in turn is going to impact their student aid index, that figure that helps us to determine the financial need of a family. And then we, of course, look at the review of those aid resources from there based on that criteria. I know housing was kind of talked about a little bit earlier. At Pacific, we do also have family housing options as well for students who have children that would like to reside with them on campus. I believe it's limited, but that is an option for us as far as another resource to kind of help support that population.
Yeah, those are usually case by case that our financial aid will work with the families on. So nothing that's outright specific for that population, but kind of a professional judgment piece there.
All right. And would having a second child in college now become a possible reason for a financial aid appeal with the changes to FAFSA?
Yeah, so if y'all did not know, the FAFSA is no longer considering multiple students in college at the same time as to determine the student aid index, what used to be known as the EFC, the expected family contribution. The application is still going to ask you, right? That's I think a little bit misleading. The question is still there. But at that point, it is going to be up to every individual school to determine how they are going to treat that scenario. A couple different ways that could play out, because I think you're going to find that the answers are going to vary really school to school. There may be schools that will consider that perhaps every single year in doing their review of, known as a special circumstance review or professional judgment. You'll kind of hear that lingo. It may be something that schools will consider for a while, right? In light of that change, maybe kind of grandfathering in is probably a good way to describe that. Maybe current students or brand new students in that scenario. And it might be something that schools will not take into account at all. Every single school, I think, is going to have to look really critically at their resources to see if they're able to take that into consideration, and if so, how. I know at Pacific, we have not made that decision yet. I think we're going to have to take a look at those FAFSAs coming in and what that need looks like before we kind of set down maybe really specific parameters. And it could still be something that is an individual review for each family that asks, but we don't have a position there. But I think that counselors and K-12 professionals are going to find that answer is probably really going to vary, and it'll depend on the school.
Yeah, that was a good question, Terry. I think you asked that. For USD, it sounds like we're going to honor those students for continuing and honoring those packages rather than drastically changing the packages so that they can really continue out and get their degree. My best guess is that for new incoming students, it's not really going to be on the table for appeal. And that what it is in the new SAI calculation, that it's going to stand. As Caitlin said, things could change, but I think our resources are going to be towards supporting continuing students with that so that there's no drastic adverse effects there.
My answer is similar to Caitlin's in that we are still making that determination, and truly we want to see the FAFSAs come in first.
Okay, one final question, and then I'll switch over to our student services panel. But Menlo mentioned athletic scholarships. Can the others speak to that as well?
Yeah, of course. I neglected to mention that earlier, so my apologies. We are a Division I school for athletics. If anyone is interested, I can pop our athletics link in the chat, but we do offer, of course, NCAA athletic scholarships, and that's going to vary team by team based on NC2A regulations. But for those sports that don't have the option to perhaps award a full ride, think maybe a swimming team or a baseball team that's trying to spread those scholarships amongst a larger roster. We work pretty closely with our coaches to try to fill in that other merit scholarship, need-based aid to kind of make that work for that student athlete and their family.
USD, we are D1, so we do offer athletic scholarships in all of our sports except for I believe football and men's rowing, which just have different program requirements there, but full and varsity scholarships for athletics, everything except for rowing and football.
Well, thank you three again for joining our financial aid panel. We appreciate it. And now we will transition to our student services panel before we open it up to a discussion with all of the institutions that are on today. So thank you again. Oops, sorry, Shannon. Let me make it so you can.
Hi, Danielle. How are you?
Good. How are you? Let me make it so you guys can show your videos. Okay. All right, joining us today for our student services session, we have Chapman University and San Francisco Bay University. And before I dive into our questions, and then just like our previous two sessions, we'll open it up to questions from all of you. I will give our two panelists a chance to introduce themselves and share a little bit about their institution. So Shannon, we can get started with you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shannon Krogan. I'm excited to be here. I'm representing Chapman University. I'm actually the director of transfer admission over at Chapman, stepping in on the student resources panel today. So hopefully can answer some questions about that. We are considered a medium-sized private liberal arts college. We're at about 7,800 undergraduate students right now at Chapman, located in the city of Orange, in Orange County in Southern California. We have 10 schools and colleges that represent our 52 different majors that we have at Chapman. We're a D3 school in regards to athletics. We see about 60% of our undergraduates coming from either out of state or out of the immediate Southern California area. So that includes Northern California as well. About 5% of our students are international. We admit both incoming high school students and transfer students, and we have 2 entry points for both. We admit during the fall and also the spring semesters as well. So happy to be here. Thank you.
And from San Francisco Bay University, we have Dr. Miriam.
Hi everyone, I'm Mariam Gazvini and our university is located in Fremont. We are a very small university, but very high tech. And currently we have engineering and business majors, but we are in the process of adding other majors possibly in the next year. So we are growing and our population is right now mainly foreign students, but we are really putting our efforts in recruiting local students around this area.
Thank you. So we know pre-pandemic and especially post-pandemic, mental health has been a top priority. So what services are available at your institutions to support student mental health?
I can go first. I actually am director of counseling, and so I do personal counseling as well as academic. If it's something that students are dealing with, which is beyond my expertise, we have a outside agency that provides that kind of counseling as well. And secondly, we also have a group of clinicians that we are in touch with, so we can refer them to those clinicians as well. But we encourage them in the orientation that suffering in silence is not okay. So if they have any kind of issues, to let us know, and we will definitely try to do our best to help them. And if it's not within the university, we will definitely seek outside help for them.
Thanks, Miriam. I would say at Chapman, a couple of things. And I think, for us, mental health, like it is for many schools, is become a larger topic than probably it was pre-COVID. So we do have a lot of things in place, I think, to support our students. Even as they come in. Miriam mentioned orientation, and it's on my mind because Chapman just started our fall semester a couple of weeks ago. So we're still kind of settling in to the beginning of that semester. We do have a full orientation program for new incoming high school students as well as transfer students. Within that orientation program, we of course introduce to the students and their parents all of our services and our student resources, including mental health. We have a student health center on campus, like many universities do. We also have a branch called Student Psychological Counseling Services, where students can receive in-house counseling. They don't have to leave the university for that. And then we have a very proactive peer education program that within the different clubs and organizations on campus, we have a group of staff, faculty, and students that go out and educate many of our students on, again, some of the resources that we have on campus. I think starting your students off on the right foot is a big deal. Going to that orientation program and experiencing the full length of it and participating in all of the activities is a good step forward on kind of getting into things, on the right foot, so to speak, as a new incoming student. We do orientation for both incoming high school and transfer students. We also have a mandatory housing requirement, and I'm not saying this is the end all be all for our mental health. It sometimes aggravates mental health to live on campus, but we do require our incoming high school students, with the exception of those that live in our local area, if they want, of course, to live off campus, to live on campus for the first 2 years. So we don't have that requirement for transfers. We do provide transfer housing, but we're really trying to kind of be proactive and in front of just getting all of our students on campus and started on the right foot, and knowing what their resources are, what their limits are. So that's just, again, very evident and very needed in today's time, I think, not unique to Chapman.
Thank you both. What services are available at your institution to help students with social and community engagement?
Miriam, you want me to go? I'll go first. Sorry. I'll take this one. We do quite a bit at Chapman. One of the things I would stress as part of our curriculum for our undergraduate students, whether you come in as a high school student or a transfer student, as part of our graduation requirement, we have a category in our general education called citizenship, community, and service. So we've got social justice, community outreach, student government, getting involved in the local community or local area that we're in, kind of embedded in our initial graduation requirements. It's a one class requirement, so students can either choose to take a course or do some sort of project or internship within the community. I think that's kind of one example. We have over 150 different clubs and organizations for our undergraduate population, and many of those clubs will have built-in community service that's also required of the students to participate in those organizations.
Yeah, I can be the next. Our school actually is not as Shannon mentioned, as large as they are. So we are a very small university. We do have actually a senior center next to us. So many of our students have volunteered over there, and when we have events, we invite them as well. But close to every Thanksgiving, I really have the students do lots of community work. And so they volunteer, and they really have enjoyed it. I think in their own countries, they probably were not this involved in the community. They did something on their own university site, but now they're learning that they have to give back to the community as they're enjoying their studies here. So we are trying to expand that again. We have a volunteer club that they organize these events, and we invite students to join them. We also invite our alumni because they might be in the area still, and they can participate as well. So it's open to them also. But that's the extent of our community engagement. Most of our seminars and things like that are also open to public. They can participate if they like. We have a few of our neighbors that come to some of our events on a regular basis. We have a speaker series. We also invite again the community to join us. So those are the type of activities we are doing for our students.
Great, thank you. And how does your campus work to ensure diversity, equity, and inclusion of all students?
I'll jump in. Sorry, Miriam. You just yell at me if you need me to go first, or if you need me to go second. Thanks, Danielle, for the question. Chapman has within its campus, we have a cross-cultural center on campus, which does, I would say, the majority of our programming for our undergraduate and graduate students when it comes to DEI activities, events that we're having on campus, forums that we're hosting, all that kind of good stuff. We also have embedded, again, in our general education graduation requirements, a DEI class requirement that students are required to do. This is a relatively new requirement for us. We've had our cross-cultural center for a while, but this DEI is a new thing we're introducing as part of our graduation requirements from Chapman. And it's addressing issues arising from intolerance and or exclusion due to factors such as race, gender, identity, national origin. So this is going to be something that our brand new incoming class is going to be taking for the first time. So we are excited about that. I would say that our cross-cultural center not only supports our students in DEI activities and efforts, but also the staff working on campus and the faculty that are teaching in our classrooms. And so I think a lot of what they do is kind of permeating in a good way throughout our entire undergraduate and graduate population. But we are excited about this new DE requirement for graduation. I do believe transfers will be able to transfer a class potentially in for that. More to come on that. But that's something that we're looking forward to implementing with this new first year class.
Awesome. Thanks, Shannon.
Okay, I think we are probably as diverse as you can get. We have 34 countries presently represented on campus. But also in orientation, we do talk about diversity and inclusion as being part of the law. It's not something like I like to do it or maybe I don't like to do it. So they really get pounded with the idea that they're protective classes. They have to understand and respect each other. And then obviously we have students that need accommodation, and we will provide that as well. Also, the staff goes through training as well to kind of get the understanding of what diversity and inclusion means. Also, we talk about harassment of any kind, that they have to have the safe environment to study, and anything that makes them uncomfortable, they have to report to us, and we will look into it and try to help them to overcome whatever is the thing that is bothering them. So as much as we can, we provide that kind of environment, but there might be issues that we have to deal with and really correct, and we will do that as soon as possible. I think I like the idea that Shannon said that we should make it a requirement for students to take a class as the staff does. The staff and faculty have to go through that training. So maybe that's something we can incorporate for the future.
Great, thank you. And what services, if there's any additional services available for undocumented students or other special populations such as veterans?
I can answer that quickly because we really, as far as I know, we don't have any undocumented students, but if we do in the future, we definitely want to listen and learn from the institutions that are actually working with those populations.
I would say at Chapman, in regards to our veteran population, I'll start with them. We do have kind of support mechanisms in place, both at the applicant stage as they're going through the process of applying. We offer an application fee waiver for our veterans, our dependent of veterans. And then if admitted, Chapman is a yellow ribbon school, which I know a lot of us on the conference today are, which is great. So there's obviously a lot of assistance and financial benefits once they are admitted to hopefully make Chapman a viable option for them to consider attending. We are in good company. We've got a lot of really strong schools in our backyard that are also yellow ribbon programs too. We have a Veterans Resource Center on campus, and then we have a veterans resource officer, both in the admission side of things and then also on the financial aid side of things. So I think very supportive to that veteran population, and growing quite a bit at Chapman since we became a yellow ribbon school, which is exciting. We do service undocumented students as well, and provide some support services through the application process. But then again, on the back end, when it comes to obviously probably the biggest topic with that student population is the financial aid side of things. And I know we just finished the financial aid portion. Chapman does offer financial aid to our undocumented students, as well as support services if those students end up landing here in a good way, whether they live on campus or not. In regards to our Dean of Students office. And then we have some staff and faculty that are kind of assigned to mentoring those students as they navigate kind of the college process overall, but especially the financial aid side of things and the piece of that with a price tag of a private school.
And then my last question before we turn over to the audience. Are there any study abroad options for your students, internship options?
Okay, sorry. We don't have a study abroad program yet. As I said, if our local population increases, that will become an option, and I know it's a very important one. Both my kids participated in that, and I'm glad they did. So at the moment, we don't have that. As far as internships are concerned, yes, we do offer that. And students diligently look for in their second semester for internships. So we encourage that and help them. And hopefully we will continue doing that as well.
Chapman does support study abroad. It is a big piece of what we do, at least at the undergraduate level, very supported by the university, not required. But definitely we try to make it as easy as possible for those students really in any major to potentially look into going to study abroad. Obviously that's been a little quiet. Last spring was, I think, our first spring, spring of 23, that we had kind of a normal study abroad period back since COVID. So that was really exciting. Our students love to do study abroad. We do have students, we have an undergraduate international education office. So they support a bunch of different efforts, but also house the Center for Global Education, which is our study abroad program that it runs out of. We offer study abroad to both the fall and the spring semester, but I also think which is a little unique is Chapman has an intersession during the month of January and also summer school. And we do some mini study abroad opportunities during those kind of condensed periods of time. If students are working or they maybe just have other obligations where they can't necessarily go away for too long, that January term or that summer term, especially for my transfer students, is really attractive to kind of get a little bit of a taste of doing a study abroad program. It does count for part of our graduation requirements. Again, it's not a requirement to study abroad, but if you do, it usually supplements some classes that you would have to take here in its place. So something that we're just really jazzed to, obviously, I'm sure every university is, to kind of bring back a little bit more full force since COVID. And I would say the majority of our students tend to study abroad more in the spring than they do in the fall. They like to kind of stay over and celebrate the summer while they're abroad, but we do offer some fall programming as well too. I don't know that we're unique when it comes to internships. Obviously, internships, I think at any university are key. I think nowadays it's comforting for students and really parents to know that a lot of internship possibility is built into the curriculum at most colleges. Again, while an internship might not be required, it's definitely facilitated at the undergraduate level in all of our individual majors. I think some majors have a different culture of doing more internships than others. I can think of our Dodge College of Film and Media Arts at Chapman, which houses kind of our film school, where that culture of doing multiple internships before you graduate is just super prevalent. Could be very different than another school or college on campus. Obviously, one area that students can gain academic credit through versus going to a class, they do an internship. And then again, we offer programs during the month of January and in the summertime as well to help students facilitate that if they're just having a hard time making the commitment of an entire semester.
Thank you. So I will turn to the Q&A, and we actually have a question that kind of piggybacks off of what we were just talking about with study abroad. With education abroad programs, is there academic advisement connecting opportunities for students major, degree credit, and is education abroad option available for transfer students?
Great. That's a big question. Good question. There's lots of stuff in there. Yes. So at Chapman, at least, we have a variety of different programs students can do study abroad through. Most of them are what we call Chapman approved programs, which means the articulation and the credits are already kind of built into that program. So there's no mystery about, gosh, could I do that program? Do the credits come back? Can I take my Chapman financial aid with me? Those types of things. That's the majority of how our study abroad does run, but we also send students out on other approved programs that are not affiliated with Chapman. So World Campus Afloat, the semester abroad where you can do the ship around the world. That's a big attractive option for students, at least it was prior to COVID. And that's not a Chapman approved program, but we do facilitate students going on to a program like that. They would know in advance, of course, what type of program they're getting into. Obviously, if they're going to do study abroad, they have to work through our Center for Global Education ahead of time. And so we educate the students, of course, on what type of program are you going to. There are some majors, it's a great part of that question. There are some majors where I think, frankly, it's a little easier or harder to do study abroad. And I think the timing is really crucial. And where you're going is really crucial. In certain colleges, if you're kind of knee deep in your major and you want to do study abroad, you might have limited options because of the major that you're in and the programs that we can send folks to. Studying abroad as a transfer is always a hot topic. I talk about it a lot. The transfers are my babies at Chapman, and I was a transfer student myself. It is possible. And we talk to transfers about that all the time. I tell my transfers to be open to different possibilities and to be flexible. It can be challenging to leave campus for an entire semester when you're there for a shorter amount of time to do a traditional study abroad. So taking advantage of the shorter programs we have during the month of January or doing a summer abroad program. Those are ways that transfers can sometimes kind of get in there and experience study abroad where they might not be able to leave for the entire semester. And again, they can do that. I think it depends. We bring transfers in at all different transfer points. So some of them are here with us longer than others. Good question.
All right. And then what programs do you have to help transition first-year students to college life?
I'll again take a stab at that. Our programs, I mean, if they're coming in as a freshman from high school, not freshman, I mean, the first year college from high school, we don't have any specific program, but we do have a lot of what we call student life engagement. So we really try to be mindful of them and encourage them to join clubs and activities on site or come and see us if they have an issue. Kind of making sure that they succeed, especially the first semester. It's really crucial for them to get a handle of everything, because for the first time in their life, I don't care if they come to our school or go to Chapman or go to UCLA, it's the same thing. It's that shock of being away from home, and they have this enormous amount of freedom that they never had. They don't kind of know what to do with it. And they're away from home. It doesn't matter if it's, 100 miles or it's 10,000 miles, it's the same thing. They just have not managed their own life for a long time, and now suddenly they have to do everything. So we provide as much support as we can with our with my group in my department. We try to engage with them, understand them, and if they need any academic counseling, we have those counselors as well. We try to balance their programs and encourage them to not take too many hard courses first or too easy courses first. I mean, it has to be a combination. And as I said, their mental health counseling is also available for them, either through my office or outside agencies. So we are very supportive and try to engage with them as much as we can. And that continues. I mean, I'm not just saying we do that first semester and we let them go, but the first semester is much more crucial than the upcoming semesters. And we are, by the way, we are 3 semesters school, so summer is a semester for us. That may change in the future, but at the moment, it's they can take a break. They don't have to go to school in summer, but they either have to take a break or they actually take the summer as a semester.
I would probably echo a lot of what Miriam said as well too, especially with I think the crucial time frame of getting the students into orientation. We actually have a parent portion of orientation as well too, which helps transition the parents into letting the kids go a little bit and all of the things that come with that as well too. At Chapman, both our incoming transfers and freshmen go through advising in the summertime. So they actually have their class schedule by the time they get to orientation. So hopefully that kind of pressure is off at that point, and they're really just there to meet other students, kind of gather up their resources and just hopefully get ready to kind of step into that semester on the right foot. We offer some programming in the summer as well for our first generation students and families that are entering college for the first time. Our student athletes tend to move on campus a little earlier than the rest of the population. So those summer months are actually really busy in terms of just getting that new first year and transfer class kind of integrated into campus before orientation kind of rolls around.
Awesome. And then, Shannon, I know you mentioned Chapman's a yellow ribbon school. Are yellow ribbon schools helping the children of veterans?
We are, yes, I should have said that. Yes, we will assist students that are either veterans themselves or dependents of veterans. And so typically what we'll do, we do that application fee waiver at the front end of things. And then if admitted, we usually get them into contact with our veterans resource officer, who works with them on the funding piece. That the Chapman admission offers, like many, it's non-binding until students and families get to see the financial aid offer coming through as well too.
By the way, we are also yellow ribbon school as well, and we've had a lot of veteran graduates from our school, so I'm not exactly sure what we offer for them, but I know that we do take care of them. So veterans and children, you're welcome. Please come and join us.
Awesome, thank you. And then one final question. Can you talk about grad and professional school advisement for undergrads?
Sure. It's a topic obviously for both the first year and the transfers. Obviously, I hear it more with transfers because they're not at Chapman as long as the traditional undergrad coming out of high school. But how we do it at Chapman is that each individual, we have 10 schools and colleges that make up our 52 different undergraduate majors at the university. We actually have a career services person staffed within each of those individual schools and colleges, which is great. So the advisement is coming from that full-time staff member that understands that industry. And so they're working with the undergrad population on internships, interviewing, and then what's ahead on the horizon, whether it's study abroad, it's grad school, It's going out into the workforce right away. That model seems to be working really well for us because obviously different industries require different ways of thinking and different opportunities, whether it makes sense to go to get a grad degree right away or go out into the workforce a little bit sooner. We also have an Office of Career and Professional Development for the entire undergrad population. But once a student selects a major, they do get some individualized attention within kind of that program frame that they're in terms of what their opportunities might be. We also, like a lot of schools, have some accelerated graduate programs for some of our undergrad to grad majors, whether it's a bridge program or a 4+1 or a 2-2-2. There's all these different kinds of programs out there now. And that's something in certain areas that is really intriguing to students. We get quite a few high school students that come in already with some college credit, whether it's through AP, IB, or dual enrollment. So they don't necessarily have to spend a 4-year traditional path at Chapman. So sometimes those accelerated graduate programs are really attractive to a population like that.
As I said, we are a very small school, so I'm kind of not entirely sure about that question. What is the nature of what they're asking? Do we provide advisement in about careers to undergrad and grad, or exactly not sure?
I believe it's, do you help your undergraduate students know and advise them on graduate and professional options available to them?
It depends. I mean, if they have a goal, what we do actually is for all of the new students coming in, we have a process we call career talk. So as soon as they come in, we meet with them and really try to understand what is their goal after they graduate. For the young ones coming in as the undergrad, for them it sounds like it's 4 years is a long way. Why do I have to think about it now? But we really encourage them to think about it, and they kind of gear themselves towards that kind of goal. Of course, they can change somewhere along the line, and we know the undergrads always change back and forth, but at least they will understand what is necessary for them to achieve that goal as far as their knowledge is concerned, experience, whatever internships they need to get themselves prepared so that they're ready at the end of that time to launch into that kind of career. If they decide to continue, they're going to get a degree, advanced degree, whether it's in our institution or they go to another university. That also has different goals that we can set for transferring and understanding what happens in the other university. Like I might say, hey, what are your top 3 or 4 places that you really want to go? And then look at their programs and see what they're requiring, and make sure you don't take extra units that doesn't transfer to that university. Again, what's the end goal? So we try to make them see themselves, visualize themselves to where they want to be, and then look at below and see what you have to have in order to get there. For the grad school graduate, same thing. That career talk we really put in place in 2018, and it did a couple of things. First of all, it really engaged them with our career center to understand what is available there, what can be of help for them. We offer seminars around career development as well, 3 of them each semester. So they're encouraged to attend those, understand what's out there, what is the latest and greatest. For example, now robots are interviewing you first, but they look like exactly like people. You don't even know that that's a robot. So how you react and look at the camera, what does for example, your shoulders are drooping or you're sitting straight and looking forward. All of these things are things that we discuss. We do a lot of mock interviews to get them ready for getting out there and talking to different employers. We used to have lots of job fairs, and I think at the end of this year, we are bringing those back. We kind of cut them down because of the pandemic. But again, you don't get hired from job fair, but at least you understand what everybody's looking for. So those are the things we really encourage them to understand and get themselves ready. And I always tell them luck happens to people who are prepared. If you are not prepared, no matter how much luck they sprinkle on your front of you, you're not going to get it. So I hope they listen to that.
Thank you. And thank you both. Now we'll transition. We have some additional institutions on camp or on Zoom. We'll bring them on as panelists as well as those who have already spoken. And as they come on, I will have institutions that maybe weren't on a panel earlier share a little bit about their institution, who they are, and then what we can do is if you would like to ask a question of everyone or a specific institution, if you can raise your hand and then we'll bring you in so you can ask your question. And so just give us a moment. Thank you, everyone. There we go. Oops. Oh, I just missed her. All right, so if you have a question right now for any of the schools that, oh, Q&A. So while some people are still joining, I know some of you are yellow ribbon. If you are a yellow ribbon program, what detail, what can you detail? I'm sorry, I need to finish my coffee. Can you detail what your respective yellow ribbon program looks like?
We are a yellow ribbon institution at University of the Pacific. We have a team member in our registrar's office that is actually our VA certifying official. And that's kind of where the process begins on our campus, going through looking at the eligibility, looking at those benefits. And then of course, on the financial aid piece, we go to see how much in like matching grant funds that we are able to offer. And to my knowledge, that coverage is, looking at pretty close to 100% of, tuition and fees. Again, just finding that balance between the student's eligibility and then, our matching piece. I'm not admittedly completely involved in that process, right? I know the outlying details, but yes, we are a yellow ribbon institution and our team is great at coordinating all of those logistics and kind of figuring out what that overall eligibility looks like.
I'll kind of second that as well for Chapman. I just posted our veterans resource info in the chat. Hopefully that's helpful. I would say just about the same thing. It kind of starts at the admit process. We do encourage veterans and our dependents of veterans to make sure they file a FAFSA form. That's still something we want them to do. And then we do a handoff where they tend to get some individualized counseling as to what their benefits are going to cover, what the university is going to come up with as well. And they will have the opportunity to see that obviously before they make any sort of commitment decision for Chapman.
I also mentioned we have yellow ribbon programs for veterans. I don't have that offhand to share with you, and unfortunately our admissions team is in a special training until 12, so I can't disturb anybody there either. But if you look at our website or if you have any questions, please let me know. I will put my information on the chat so you can contact me. No problem. I can get back to you at as soon as I can.
I posted a couple websites that have the student services support with at our institution, but I also linked our financial aid office and their page that has a little bit more detail about how the aid is broken down and what each semester would look like.
And then we have been joined by Peter. He is of Harvey Mudd College, and Ann Seed, Samuel Merritt University. So Ann, when you have a chance, if you could share a little bit about Samuel Merritt.
Yes, I'm happy to. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ann Seed, and I'm a longtime, I'm a University of Pacific graduate, bachelor's and master's, go Tigers, and I'm a longtime admission counselor at Samuel Merritt University. Among the AICCU schools, we are, and I think it's fair to use the word unique, in that we do not take any students directly from high school. The youngest that students come to us would be as first semester junior transfer students, generally from the community colleges, but could be from another four-year institution as well. And that's directly into our Bachelor of Science in Nursing program. And they enter as first semester juniors with a prescribed set of prerequisites. And it will be a two-year program to graduate with their BSN to be ready to sit for licensure. Above and beyond that, we offer master's and doctoral degrees in occupational therapy, physical therapy, physician assistant studies, and podiatric medicine. So we are a health sciences institution. And I'm very happy to be part of AICCU and be happy to be joining you today.
Thank you so much, Ann. All right, I would love to open it up and let's get some, I know we've been doing a lot of the Q&A box, but if you raise your hand, I will promote you over so you can speak. You don't have to turn your camera on if you don't want to, and you can ask questions of any of our schools that are here. So we have Chapman University, San Francisco Bay University, Loyola Marymount University, University of the Pacific, Harvey Mudd College, and Samuel Merritt University. All right, we have someone. Let me promote you over, David. All right, David, thank you for raising your hand and asking some questions. The floor is yours.
Hi, Shannon. My question is for you. I know you have a graduate program in food science, which is very unique. And I'm wondering, what's the undergraduate program that feeds into it? Because I couldn't find one, but I know it's in the School of Technology.
Hi, David. How are you? Yes,
I'm
we
good.
have a graduate program in food science nutrition at the master's level. And we used to have, years and years ago, I've been at Chapman for a long time, we used to have an undergraduate program in it as well. Did away with the undergrad program and just have the grad program. There's a couple of different majors the students can kind of explore. David, I can put my contact info for you in the chat. I believe that the primary undergrad program, I think that because there is a bridge program into it, and I apologize, I don't know all the details of it. I believe it's connected to our chemistry undergrad program. Not that the students have to necessarily pursue that particular degree, but there is a little bit of a pathway for them if they're interested in that. So I will stick my direct email in here for you. And then if you can email me, I'll give you that more information on it too.
Great. That makes sense. Chemistry. And then my follow-up question, is there any hospitality programs within the colleges represented today?
Chapman does not.
None for us at
We don't
University
have
of
that
the Pacific
program.
at this time.
Sorry about that. I'm saying we don't have that program either.
right, thank you, David. And then we have another raised hand. Let me move you over, Anne. All right, thank you for joining, Anne or Anna. Floor is yours.
Thank you. I have some students that come to our high school having taken coursework at another country. And as a counselor, helping students complete their common application, how do we post that information? Do we post it as it appears on their transcript with the translation, or some advice would be helpful? Thank you.
Peter?
So in a perfect world, we'd get a transcript from the secondary school at the previous country, and we get a second transcript from your high school. The world isn't perfect. So if you have a translation and you've awarded credit, we would hope that you'd be able to give us some sense, a copy of the original, and the thought process, if you can, about what led to you granting credits as you did. The systems in other countries don't necessarily agree with the way we align courses. I've known that especially in mathematics, but it could be in other disciplines as well. It's just really, really useful to know what we're really dealing with. Like a student in Bulgaria would have taken 11 courses, not 5 or 6 in a high school year. So those kinds of things and the relative weights are all things that the high school has to work out. In terms of placements into courses and then progressions, that becomes important.
At LMU, we have an international admissions team. So even if the student applies as a first-year domestic student, we still work with our international team to make sure that we've recalculated and sort of taken into account the different system abroad. So we definitely welcome transcripts and self-reported grades, but of course with international grades, it helps seeing a copy of the transcript to make sure that we're sort of recalculating on our end and making sure everything is consistent on our end.
I also want to second what Peter said. We do require the actual transcript, but also we have evaluation companies outside that would evaluate those and in translation of the units and all of that. So hopefully everything works out after that, and then we do the acceptance. But as he said, there's no perfect world, and I don't think everybody's going to meet the ideal transfer or transcript situation anyway.
Thank you. All right. Right. Any other questions? Give it one more chance. Go. Oh, yay. Sorry, I get really excited easily. Right, we have Erin joining. All right, Erin.
Okay, sorry about that. I had a question for SMU. I was just looking at your website because nursing is super competitive for everyone. And I was looking at the Bachelor of Science in Nursing program and the stats, and then the tuition costs kind of was a little alarming for California community college students. I was wondering how many of your students, if they get in as a transfer student, get a lot of that covered by financial aid.
Thanks, Erin. Erin, are you from a community college? What community college are you from?
Yes, I'm from Norco Community College in Riverside
Yes,
Community
great.
College
Wonderful.
District.
Yes. So the answer is yes and yes. Now, the BSN program is for 2 years, so we hope that will minimize some of the costs for the student. But like all of us, that sticker shot at the AICCU schools is going to be significant.
Right.
About 98% of our students receive financial aid. And for the BSN students in particular, they probably have some of the most attractive financial aid options available to them of scholarships and grants, as opposed to our master's and doctoral students that are looking more at loans. So
Right.
I would never discourage someone from considering, Sammy Merritt for their BSN, Dominican for their BSN, USF for their BSN, but certainly work with the financial aid office at our competitive campuses. Now, the other thing that's going to be a sticker shock to students is for us, is the cost of living in the Bay Area. But that's also going to be taken into consideration when a financial aid package is awarded for them. So tell them not to be discouraged.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. All right, another. All right, David.
Hi, me again, David Esparza, LA Tree Tech College. Specifically for transfer students, do you have any upcoming transfer days or open houses or virtual events still for the rest of this fall? And you can put them in the chat or in the web link.
And Sammy Merritt is having a preview day. Oh boy, is November 4th. Is that a Saturday? A preview day for our BSN program on campus in Oakland. And the information is up on our website, but I will put it, is the 4th a Saturday?
It is.
Okay.
Just
Awesome. Okay, I'll put it in the chat.
Anyone else having transfer days?
I've asked one of our admission counselors to join me for those kind of questions. Her name is also Miriam, so we both have the same name.
You're running out of names here.
So hopefully she can answer some of the questions that I haven't been able to answer. By the way, we don't have financial aid, but we have very good grants. So if anybody is interested to join our school, we provide 75% grants. So that could help with the cost of living at Bay Area.
Great. All right, we have.
Sorry, Danielle. Sorry, I just to say Shannon from Chapman. I'm just going to post our transfer related events. We are doing, both virtual and in-person events for our prospective transfer students. So I'll post that in the chat.
We have time for one more question. If one more person would like to join and ask a question. All right. Right. Well, seeing none, I would like to thank all of our schools that joined us throughout the morning. And also thank all of you who joined us, whether you're a high school, community college or a community college counselor, from independent counselor. I know we had some of you, CBOs. Just thank you again. I know I mentioned it a few times in my opening, but truly thank you for your dedication and work with students. If anytime AICCU or one of our institutions can help you with anything, don't hesitate to reach out. Just like I mentioned to you earlier, we're small. But that also means we can provide individual connections and networking with you. So thank you again. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of your day and look forward to hosting more of these in the future. Thank you.